All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Don't Be Ridiculous podcast. It's Tuesday evening, a little after 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Um, we usually do these on Sunday, but kind of worked out. We didn't do this on this past Sunday because major news out of the Monday Night Football game. So before we talk about anything, Clark, just what were your initial thoughts on, first of all, just a very strange night in general. Very strange night. Aaron Rodgers goes down with the Achilles injury, and then somehow the Jets pull off a win, which just
Yeah.
I was laughing my ass off watching the end of that. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. It's one of those things where
Yeah.
sometimes sports just does weird stuff. So what were your
All right.
initial thoughts when it first happened?
I don't really like, so I didn't stay up to watch the whole game. Like, I watched most of the first half, and then I watched the second half in the morning. I recorded the game and just watched it when I got up. Um,
Right.
so yeah, I was planning to watch, that was what I was planning to do. Because it's the first Monday Night Football game. Hey, the Jets are playing. Aaron Rodgers is there. Like, they're playing the Bills. Like, this is kind of interesting. I want to see what happens. You know, and so I missed all the fanfare before the game. I guess they were doing something for September 11th, and Aaron Rodgers, I guess, came out, waving the American flag, and I guess it was really emotional. Obviously, the game is in, well, it's in New Jersey, but I mean, right across the way from New
On
York.
9/11.
Yeah. So the game's, I missed the first couple minutes of the game because I guess the Bills got the ball first and they drove, and their drive stalled out, and they punted the ball to the Jets. So then the Jets get the ball, and Rodgers runs out there. I'm like, all right, let's see what happens, And I was kind of thinking, we'll see how bad this offensive line is. And without missing a beat, the offensive line was terrible. He basically got rushed every single time he dropped back to throw.
Right.
And then he fell down, I was kind of like, what the hell happened? Like, I didn't see anything. I didn't until I started watching replays this morning. I didn't see it. There's replays you can watch. You can see when it happens.
Yeah.
You know. So he falls down, then he gets up, and then he goes back down. I'm like, well, that's kind of odd, you know. And then he goes to the sideline, and I'm thinking, all right, well, maybe it's an ankle injury or something. That's kind of weird. And then then I think someone, maybe Joe Buck or something, said, he had a calf injury during training camp, and I'm like, oh, because I remembered Kevin Durant had a calf injury, and then he went into the game and tore his Achilles. I was like, oh no, you know. So I was kind of like, that's why I texted you. I was like, oh my god, are you watching this? Like, are you kidding me? The dude goes out there, 4 plays in, he's out, you know. So yeah, that was pretty. I was like, oh my god, and you're just watching the game, and you're not hearing the crowd go nuts because they're just like, are you serious? It's like, if you're a Jets fan, you got to be like, this is why we can't have nice things. Like, literally, we can't. It's just, it's like the Browns. It's like just bad stuff happens to us. We just know it. Just bad stuff's gonna happen. I was like, God, this is like the worst thing to happen since like the butt fumble. I don't even, So yeah, initially, yeah, that's kind of what I was. It was just, wow, are you serious? Like, I figured the offensive line was going to have problems, but are you kidding?
Yeah, when you texted me that, I assumed that somebody was blowing somebody out. That like somebody was up 21-0 real quick, and
Yeah.
it was like a disaster. Like that's what I thought you were texting me, and then you said no, Rogers went out of the game, and so I turned it on and I watched it from the beginning, kind of fast forwarded through the plays, and then when the look on Rogers' face was what stuck out to me. Like when he was on the ground, the look on his face was just like he looked like you could tell he knew. And so that's when I saw that, I went, yeah, this isn't a sprained ankle, guys. Like, this isn't a high ankle sprain, because then he would be like in pain limping around. This is something popped. And, and then when I saw, then he was in the tent the whole time. And then when he finally got onto the cart, I was like, yeah, like this is what it is. I think that's what's happening. And so, yeah, listen, I like you described. I felt bad for about 30 seconds. Okay, I felt bad. I was like, oh man. And then they show the Jets fans in the crowd, and the Jets fans are uh, just honestly, the whole place goes quiet. Like people, and like all the anticipation, they had built this up for months. Aaron Rodgers is on Hard Knocks, and everybody's excited. They all think, "Oh, look, it's happening." You know, they're all just jacked up for the game, and then 4 plays in, done. Like it just, and then after the 30 seconds were up, then I was like, "Oh my god, that's hysterical." I couldn't stop.
Yeah, well, go ahead.
I couldn't stop laughing, and so I was like, and then I was kind of started watching, and then I became more interested in the game after Aaron Rodgers got hurt, you know, because before I was like, whatever, you know, it doesn't mean anything, but then I was like, oh, well, I gotta watch this, and then Josh Allen started throwing interceptions, which just boneheaded. Zach Wilson threw one in for good measure. That was fantastic. Zach Wilson being Zach Wilson. And then I'm like, are you kidding me? All these Jets fans paid all this money to go to the game to see Zach Wilson play quarterback? Like, it's a good thing the Jets were competitive in the game, because if that had turned into a blowout, I think Jets fans might have started throwing stuff on the field trying to burn Zach Wilson. Like, it's...
Yeah. Yeah, it's... I mean, look, it's unfortunate for the Jets. You know, I mean, they're not. First of all, we didn't think they were a contender before. They're not a contender now. You know, and so I guess I guess we'll see if they try to bring in, like, I assume they'll bring in, you know, maybe they bring in another backup for Zach Wilson, but maybe they go out and get somebody else. Maybe they make a trade, or they just, you know, I don't know. We'll see. But it doesn't really matter. I mean, their offensive line clearly is not very good. Their defense, the thing is, though, I don't think that they're going to be, like, absolutely terrible. Their defense is really good, okay? And their defense is going to, and in fact, as a Dolphins fan, Tua, dude, do not fuck around against the Jets. Get down, get rid of the ball, because, you know, I do not want you getting thrown around by those, you know, defensive linemen. So, yeah, I don't think the Jets are, like, going to be absolutely terrible, but, I mean, they're not going to make the playoffs. You know, people thinking they were going to win the division or something, that's out the window.
Yeah, so let's lay this out. So, listen, man, not trying to be mean. Like, we're just trying to tell the truth. They were on Get Up this morning trying to make all these arguments about the Jets might be good and the Jets could make the playoffs. And you know, like, if they get, you know, somebody even brought up, you know, Brad Johnson and Trent Dilfer, like, oh, well, the teams with a great defense can compete for the Super Bowl. Okay, let's just put this to bed. The Jets are not a contender anymore for anything. Okay, the Jets are not going to be. I would be surprised if they're over 500 in terms of record. Could they win 7 or 8 games? Sure.
Yeah.
I frankly think any team in the NFL can win 7 or 8 games. I don't think that's that hard to do, to be honest with you. But
they won. How many games did they win last year?
I think they were 7-10.
Yeah. So I mean, and that was with, you know, a revolving door at quarterback and just whatever. So, you know. I mean, if they can run the ball and play good defense, then yeah, I think there's a lot of games that they could potentially be in. You know.
Yeah. So look, I feel terrible. Like, as a football fan, if that happened to my team, yeah, I'd be pretty destroyed by it. And I get it. But the Jets are not going to. There's not going to be a fix. Let's talk about other quarterbacks for a second. I don't know what is going on. The media everybody turns into a moron when things like this happen. Tom Brady is not coming back to play for the Jets. Okay, let's just lay this out. Okay, this is like my not going to the Super Bowl thing. These things are not happening. Tom Brady is not coming back to play. Did you see Tom Brady? He's lost a whole bunch of weight. He is in by no means anywhere near playing shape. And he certainly is not going to come back to play for a team with a bad offensive line. Why in God's name would anybody do that? Okay? Yeah. The other thing is, current starting quarterbacks in the NFL are not getting traded to the Jets. Okay? You're not getting Matthew Stafford. You're not getting Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't care how bad their teams do. No one is trading their starting quarterback to you in the middle of a freaking season.
Yeah.
Okay? So just get that out of your head. Also, I don't think you're getting there's a chance of this, but you're not getting Jacoby Brissett or Jameis Winston. They currently have backup quarterback jobs. Okay? And those teams are not just going to get rid of them because they don't have the best starters in the world. Okay, like Jameis Winston is backing up Derek Carr. They are not going to throw that away when the Saints believe they have a good team. The Washington Commanders are not going to trade Jacoby Brissett. Like they're going to keep him prepared. So I don't think you're going to get, and it wouldn't make any sense to trade draft picks for a backup who's just going to play this year. That makes absolutely no sense because your plan basically is to hopefully Rodgers comes back from this and he can play next year. What sucks for the Jets is if they didn't owe Zach Wilson money, they would have just cut him last year. But unfortunately, they didn't have a choice. So they had to let Mike White go because they didn't owe Mike White any money. So now they're stuck with Zach Wilson, who they benched last year and basically didn't dress for some of the games. So that's where I feel bad for the Jets. I feel bad that they're stuck with Zach Wilson because, let's just be honest, he sucks. Like the guy, he has no chance of actually managing the game and doing what they need him to do, especially with how good Breece Hall ran the ball last night. Oh my God.
Yeah.
That was awesome. Coming off an ACL injury to play like that, yeah. So, it won't matter who the Jets get. Are they going to go get Carson Wentz? Great. Okay, another guy that throws interceptions. Like, do they really need? I just don't. Unfortunately for the Jets, there's just not a lot out there for them. You can tell me, oh, you can't play Zach Wilson. I don't know where you go.
It's very hard to in the middle of the season, trade or bring in some guy. I mean, they're invariably going to struggle because they have to learn the system. They got to play with the guys. They got to get snaps. So yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it really doesn't they're not doing anything this year. Okay, once Aaron Rodgers went down, your chances of doing anything were gone. Okay.
Yeah.
So
let's talk about the teams that are going to benefit the most from what happened. Namely the team that the Jets actually beat last night. Buffalo. No, you and I came into the season basically saying, look, Buffalo will be fine. Maybe they're not going to be Super Bowl contenders, but they'll be fine. Josh Allen's got some issues, obviously, and this is a long time with this problem that he still can't get rid of it, and just throwing the ball to the other team, those throws were terrible. Tua threw a really bad interception in the end zone, on Sunday, but the Josh Allen throws they're beyond inexcusable. There's absolutely no reason. He's just trying way too hard to make a play. And the other thing is, Clark, where's the self-awareness? You saw Aaron Rodgers get hurt. You're playing the Jets. The Jets are not going to score a lot of points. All you have to do is take care of the ball and manage your team, and you're going to win. And he couldn't even do that. The Jets wheezed their way to 16 points and still took overtime to win that game at home. That's the part that's what mostly disturbs me, is that he's still trying to make insane plays for no reason in a game where they're not even needed.
Yeah, so that was the next thing I wanted to get to about from that game. So Josh Allen, he's last year and now the first game this year, he's thrown way too many interceptions. Now look, I'm okay with interceptions every now and then if you're trying to make plays, okay? I'll even grant you the first one to Stephon Diggs deep down the field, he was single covered, okay, fine. All right? But the other two, particularly the one to Stephon Diggs into double coverage, what the fuck are you doing, dude? What are you, dude, okay? You got to get this. Look, I still think Josh Allen he's obviously extremely talented, and he's played well in a lot of big games. Okay, so I don't want to be like Nick Wright about this, who's been dumping on Josh Allen for a few years now. I still think he's really good, and in fairness, he had a nice touchdown drive in the first half. Okay, and then when they needed to go get a field goal to tie the game to send it to overtime, he drove them right down the field and got a field goal. Okay. He beat the Chiefs last year. Okay. He played when the Bills played the Dolphins the second time last year. They needed a drive to go win the game. He did that. Okay. I know he played like shit against the Dolphins and then against the Bengals. Okay. but he's still a really good quarterback. He's got to fix this. Okay. I don't know how, because part of me wonders, how much of this, I think we're all starting to realize more and more how much credit Brian Daboll deserves for developing Josh Allen. Because I remember watching him in his first playoff game against the Texans. He was throwing passes just like he was doing last night, So I don't know what the fix is, but I do want to put this out there, okay? If the Bills have a subpar year, if the Bills miss the playoffs or they make the playoffs, they lose their first game, is it possible they want to make a coaching change? Okay. And also, at the same time, is it possible that, and I swear I sound like Greeny here, but whatever. Jim Harbaugh, is it going to get any better at Michigan than it is right now after this year?
Right.
And the problem with the Bills, what's the problem? They need to fix the offensive line. They need a running game. And you need to fix a quarterback who's clearly got some problems. Okay?
Right.
Jim Harbaugh did that in San Francisco. All right? So, is that a possibility? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Could they get a different offensive coordinator maybe? I don't know. Again, this is one game. Maybe he turns it around. Maybe this was the straw that broke the camel's back and he's like, all right, I'm fucking around too much. I got to relax. The way I was thinking of it today, he's got the recklessness, taking chances thing turned up to 11. And dude, yep. I'm going to need you to turn that down to like a 6, okay? Because it's way too high. You're taking way too many chances. You don't need to be hurtling over people or chucking the ball 50 yards just to show that you can do it. Okay? I know you got a strong arm, but you gotta rein this shit in. Because if you don't, you gave that game away. The Bills should have won that game. You gave a game away. Okay? You can't keep doing that. So we'll see. We'll see if they need to make a coaching change. They need to bring in a different offensive coordinator. I don't know what they need to do, but they need to fix him, because this is a serious problem.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities. If they flounder this year and don't make the playoffs, I think Sean McDermott's in deep shit, because a lot of never fix the offensive line. They still don't have a running game, and they've missed on a lot of defensive draft picks. So I think that this is an issue. I'm not one of those. I'm not severely alarmed by it. I think losing a game like that is a good teacher, and so I think hopefully that gets them. That kind of gets them to play a little bit more efficiently and a little bit smarter.
Well, the other thing is that I thought, a couple of years ago, I thought the Bills were way far ahead of the Dolphins, and although I have my issues with Tua, I don't think they're actually that far apart. No. Especially, if the Dolphins play the Bills and Josh Allen just starts flinging the ball everywhere, okay, maybe the Dolphins can beat them. Again, I'm not going to back off my pick of the Bills winning the division. Like, I'm not going to just overreact to one game. But yeah, it's a problem. It's clear.
Yeah. So the other thing is that we talked about this in our division picks, but I think now that I'm sorry, Jet fans, but the Jets are out of the way now. I think that the Patriots now become a problem because this is not a team that's going to go away. This is not a team that's going to throw four interceptions in a game like Josh Allen does. And so I think the Patriots really benefit from this, because I don't see any way the Jets are beating the Patriots. The Patriots defense is pretty good, and the Patriots offense is actually capable of moving the ball. And so I just don't see the Jets are going to be in deep trouble against the Patriots. Any team with a good defense, the Jets are just going to have a really hard time winning a game against, because they're not going to be able to score. Like, Buffalo's defense is okay, and they couldn't score against them. So I don't think that the Jets are going to be able to do much. So that the Patriots are going to be an issue. And that's going to. I don't think they're going anywhere. I said these teams so I think now it's a 3-horse race in the AFC East, and all those teams are going to be within 7 and 10 wins. I think that they're all going to be right. They're all going to be right there next to each other, and the Jets are probably going to be in 4th place, but it's not going to be by a lot. So yeah, this is going to be what we've seen so far. This is going to be a really tight race for the division. I don't, I'm not sold on the Patriots being a legit contender to do anything, but they're going to be competitive in this division because they're solid, because they have a real offensive coordinator now, and
Yeah.
I think that makes a difference. So we might as well have the Dolphins conversation now.
Okay.
So all right, so the Dolphins beat the Chargers 36-34. All I can tell you is Clark and I watched the game together, and we just kept thinking this is not the kind of game the Dolphins win. This is a game that the Dolphins lose. That in our lifetime, this is how the Dolphins do it. Like, they come really close and they lose this game at the end because they in this particular game can't stop the run and can't make a defensive stop when they need it, and they've just made too many mistakes in this game, and this is how this is going to go. And but somehow they pulled it off. They pulled it off. They made a defensive stand at the end of the game to stop Justin Herbert in a game, and at a point where I'm like, they can get a field goal. This is easy. I thought there's no way the Dolphins are holding them back from winning this game, and they won the game. So that's that in itself is impressive. I know you could probably paint us as negative about Tua, but I just have to say, like, yeah, there were some for the first game of the season, there were some things that I'd like to do differently, some things I'd like to have back offensively, but for the most part, I'd say 90% of it was fantastic. He hit the guys that were there. He even hit some guys when the play broke down and had to make a play on his own when they really needed it. And that was awesome. The offense, I think, continues to evolve. I think the way that I've watched some of the breakdowns of the game, the way that they used motion and the way that they spread guys out, it kind of stretched the defense out to where there was space in the middle of the field. That, and I think the Chargers just didn't bother to cover Tyreek Hill the entire game, which, that's a little confusing. But yeah, listen, great win by the Dolphins. I think that's a big deal, because it's one of those you look back at the end of the season and go, wow, we really got one there, because that did not look like they were going to win that game.
Yeah. All right. So I was thinking about this today, the best way to kind of talk about this game. So there's a lot of positives, and then there's a but, with some different stuff. So, okay. Tua looked pretty good. Okay. Tua was, when there was stuff there, he was hitting it. And he made some plays that were kind of off schedule. He made some throws on the move that I was impressed with. That deep throw to Tyreek Hill is probably one of the best deep throws I've ever seen him make. So he was, again, the interception was bad, and he fumbled the snap twice. But I have to be fair, okay? With other quarterbacks, I'm okay with Joe Burrow making mistakes, because I feel like he's going to make up for it. Tua made up for it. So I got to give him credit. I can't totally rip on him for making mistakes if he makes up for it. So, overall, he was really good, and the offense, so that was a positive. The offensive line held up, even without Teron Armstead. Obviously I think the other thing you can look at is the offense. We'll get into this. I think the Chargers may have probably made some mistakes in terms of their game planning, in terms of how they were dealing with the Dolphins offense. But I think you can kind of tell, if the defense doesn't come ready to play, the Dolphins can whoop your ass on offense. Their offense can whoop your ass. They can just make plays all up and down the field. Okay, which is encouraging. That's good in this day and age of the NFL. That's what you need. Defensively, I'm glad they made some stops at the end. They had to blitz. Xavier Howard, maybe he's kind of out of his prime now. So there's some questions there. It's the first game. We'll see how things develop. But I think my main concerns are basically, how much of this was that the Chargers were not ready to play? Because we have questions about Brandon Staley. The funny thing is, I think people think that he's on the hot seat. I don't know that that's true, because the Chargers are cheap with their head coaches, and they'll keep head coaches for way longer than they should. Okay? They kept Norv Turner for several years. So I don't necessarily know that he's on the hot seat, but we've had questions about him before. We've had questions about him going for it on fourth down all the time. And, You guys were up 27 points or whatever it was in the playoffs, and you gave that up to the Jaguars. So what the hell's going on? You know, you're I don't get it. Like I don't get how you're just letting Tyreek Hill run all over the place. You know, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And I think that the concern I have is that basically like, okay, when you have a game like that, it's like with the Cowboys. They're 40-0 better than the Giants. Maybe not really. I mean, in that particular game they were, but come on, you know. So with the Dolphins, it's like, okay, your offense is probably somewhere between what we just saw and what we saw you do against the Chargers last year. Okay, it's somewhere between there. Okay, probably closer to the middle than it is one way or the other. You know, depending on who the opponent is. So I just, you know, my thing with Tua is, and I think people are like, oh, well, you're not giving him credit. No, I'm giving him credit. I gave him credit after the Baltimore game last year. I said he did a good job against the Bills the second time they played him last year. They just should have ran the ball more. Okay, so I'll give him credit. I'm fine with that. But my question is, you know, they're playing the Patriots next week. Okay, he doesn't play that well against the Patriots throughout his career. Okay, we've seen it. All right. So how do you do when Tyreek Hill is not getting a free release off the line and just running all over the place? You know, how do you do when they kind of lock down the receivers and your first read's not there? Okay. And it's a game where you just have to kind of gut it out. And maybe you play poorly in the first quarter and you got to come back and try to find ways to, you know, move the ball, get first downs, complete passes. Like, how do you do when that's going on? Okay. That's what I need to see. And so far, I haven't really seen that. Okay. When things are going well, things can go really well. When things are going badly, they can go really badly. So, you know, I need to see more of that. So again, credit, but you know, I have some concerns, particularly about the offensive line. We'll see how they hold up against, you know, I mean, I was surprised that the Chargers weren't able to get more of a pass rush. We'll see if that changes against the Patriots or some of the other, because they got to play the Cowboys, they got to play the Jets twice, they got to play the Bills twice, obviously. So
Eagles.
we'll see.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree with all of that. It was one of those games. It was just like, wow, Tua is really playing well, but at the same time, what the hell are the Chargers doing? I mean, good Lord, like, are we going to cover him at all? Like, it just blew my mind. It's just like, are you kidding me? I mean, you know, almost every throw he made, I think there were 3 throws where the guy was not wide open. So, you know, that's the part that confuses me. The other thing is, you know, the offensive line. The offensive line was awesome. Tua barely got touched in the game. Is that real, or is that just, you know? But I mean, the Chargers have Bosa and Khalil Mack, so they the offensive line they have to be doing something right.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
So it's just like, all right, what's that going to be like against the Patriots? The Patriots don't have any pass rushers really like that. So what's that going to look like? And then the other thing on defense, was that just, you know, was it a lot of Vic Fangio trying to force the Chargers to run the ball? Because I really didn't see them bring anybody else up to try to stop the run. It seemed like they were perfectly content to have the Chargers running the ball, which if you're playing the Chargers, it's not a bad strategy, but you can't let them run for 230 yards, though. So, and then, you know, Xavier Howard I don't think he can cover anybody anymore. I think he's going to have to be a zone. You're going to have to play zone with him, or he's going to have to start playing safety, because I just don't. He just can't stay with guys anymore. All he does is grab them and commit pass interference. That seems to be about the only thing he can do. So we're really going to miss Jalen Ramsey. You can see that. But I think it's great that they get the Patriots the second week, because it's a big game. We'll get to see it's against a good team with a good defense. We'll get to see if what the Dolphins do is for real, if they can really do this. And by the way, Tua is 3-0 against the Patriots or whatever it is. So.
That's actually one of my concerns, because he hasn't really played that well against the Patriots, and also the Dolphins have beaten him like 4 times in a row or something. So, you know, something's got to give, right? So I'm a little concerned about that. So we'll see.
Yeah. So all right. So before we move on to the rest of the NFL, so I want to address this about Tua. So we've been hearing people say this the whole offseason. Well, if Tua's healthy, he's great. You know, and then I heard yesterday I'm watching Speak on FS1, and Joy Taylor goes, this is who Tua is. Like, we saw him be clutch last year. And, this is what he does. I don't know why do you people think, if he's healthy, he's going to be great. And it's just like, I can't stand watching people just blatantly lie on television. Like, first of all, none of that is true. Okay. The truth is, when he's healthy, he's all over the place. He's ridiculously inconsistent. Like, that's the truth. Like, obviously you don't watch all the games, and I'm not saying he has to be great in every game, but he's not even great in half the games. Yeah. So I don't understand where we're getting this from, that, when he's healthy, he's great. No, we've seen him be great a few times. Okay? That does not mean you're great. Like, Patrick Mahomes plays bad games sometimes. I get that. But those are sandwiched in between really good games. So his bad games are few and far in between. Tua's bad games are like every third week.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to be a jerk here, and I'm giving him credit for how well he played in that game, but we need to stop acting like that's just how he plays all the time and that's who he is, when it's not.
Yeah. Well, I think just I guess to put a bow on this. So the main thing that I think that one of the things I want to address is, like, it seems like, I mean, obviously when you have that much speed, it's probably easier to scheme your way to getting guys wide open. And as a coach, you should do that, right? That should be the goal. Get some guys open to make it easier on your quarterback, right? But my problem is, when that's not happening, how does Tua play? We've kind of seen some of that. So it's like, and again, I don't want to be overly critical. It's like, I'm not expecting like every game needs to be like this impossible thing where he's just making the most difficult throws. No. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm just saying, when the game really gets tight, I don't think that he can really make, the throws that you would need to make to move the team down the field to get a field goal or get a touchdown, or, whatever the case is. So that's what I'm concerned about.
And his bad games are awful. It's not like a bad game for him as he plays average. A bad game for him, like last year against the Chargers, he was like 10 completions out of 28. Like, it's not like, this is salvageable even when you play this. Like, no, he's so bad you can't do anything. Like, your offense is literally destroyed when he plays that badly. So let's let's be honest. Let's tell the truth about it. Okay? Like, look, do I think the guy has potential? Sure. Absolutely. But let's just be honest about, how well he plays and how often it happens.
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing. Like, it's like, guys, people are honest about, like, Kirk Cousins, and more and more people are starting to be honest about, like, Dak Prescott. Like, we kind of know what they are. We know what their limitations are. That some big games they get into and they just don't play that well. Like, we know that. We've seen it. So with Tua, I just think eventually the facts kind of overwhelm it. So again, look, Tua, prove me wrong then. Okay, go out there and prove me wrong. You're fully healthy now. Maybe the offensive line's better. Maybe McDaniels learned some things from being a coach for a year and being in a lot of different games. So, the opportunity's there. Go out and, play. And I'm not saying he has to win every single game, but just go out there and show me something I haven't seen before from you.
Yeah, I don't think his health is not the biggest concern here, guys. His play is the biggest concern. I think people are messing things up. I know if he's not healthy, he can't play. I get it. But, I'm much more concerned about the way he plays than whether he stays healthy or not.
Right.
Anyway, all right. So, this weekend from the NFL perspective, I wrote some stuff down. Look, there were some blowouts in week 1. I'm not making too much of it. I'm really not. Like, for the 49ers went and blew out Pittsburgh. Guys, San Francisco's really good and everybody's healthy. So they were 100% fully loaded for this game. Pittsburgh is not a great team. I know they've become a sexy pick this year, but they're pretty average. It's not that Pittsburgh is not this loaded team that's Super Bowl bound, okay? San Francisco went out there and beat their ass. Okay, that happens sometimes. In the NFL, these games, getting blown out in the NFL, it's really not that big a deal. It happens to pretty much everybody. Go back and look at every Super Bowl champion. They have a game during the season where they just get the tar beaten out of them, right? The Giants, listen, the Cowboys are not 40 points better than the Giants, okay? the Cowboys are a good team. Do they have the best defense in the league? I don't think so, but you can make that argument if you want to. But that, it went sideways on them, and once it did, it was over. There was nothing the Giants could do. It was one of those games where the ball's just not going your way, and it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I'll say this: get ready for next Monday because the Cowboys play the Jets next. So,
right.
So the problem is that the Cowboys are probably going to have two extremely dominant defensive performances. So everybody's going to be like, "Oh my god!" And it's going to be like, "All right, come on." They played the Giants and the Jets. Like, relax.
Yeah. The Bengals. I mean, Joe Burrow was out the whole preseason. I mean, he literally just got back. And, so, yeah, Cincinnati looked bad. They were also playing in a rainstorm. Like,
Cleveland didn't look that good either. So let's just,
right.
Right.
But it's the NFL, man. If you're not ready to play, you're going to get beat. That's how it works. Like, this isn't, the division between talent in these teams is not very high. It's not very large. So if you're not ready, you're going to get your ass kicked. And that happens. The Dolphins will get their ass kicked in one of these games this year. It will happen. So I'm not making too much out of it. I don't think it's that really a big deal.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. So you want to talk about the Chiefs at all? The Chiefs game? I mean, I know that was last Thursday.
I think the Chiefs don't have any receivers. They've got an issue. That they're going to have to fix. I mean, obviously, Chris Jones is back now, and Kelsey will obviously be back. But yeah, the Chiefs might have to figure something out, and they might have to try to make a trade for a receiver or something because they definitely need some help. I don't think the Chiefs are going to drop that many passes. Right, it was the first game of the season. I think Mahomes and these guys will figure it out. They're going to get extra time now to prepare for week 2. So no, I'm not that worried about the Chiefs. They do have to play Jacksonville, which is not going to be easy. But I'm not overly worried. I thought the Lions played well, but they struggled on offense. It looked like the first game of the season for them. There were some bright spots. I really like how the Lions have their team built. I really like the way their offensive line. I like that they run the ball. I really like the way that they do it. And I think but I don't take much. I don't take that win to mean Detroit's awesome.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was impressed with Detroit. I mean, granted, they only had 2 offensive touchdowns, but I was impressed that they were able to win that game. They were able to run the ball. Jared Goff was able to make some throws. I mean, Jared Goff, we need to kind of put him almost in the same category as like Derek Carr or, Cousins or Dak Prescott. I mean, he's tall. He's got a decent arm. He can stand in there and make some throws. And he's proven if you put a good team around him, he can be pretty good.
Yep.
So, and Detroit's a pretty good team. I mean, it's, I don't want to go, overboard with it. I mean, that game, as you said, that game meant more to them than it did to the Chiefs. It's important for Detroit to get that win. They start off 1-0. They can kind of maybe get some momentum going. So, and the Chiefs, they didn't have Kelsey. The receivers dropped a bunch of passes. They only lost by 1 point. So it's not, I always hate it when people like draw way too much from some of this stuff where it's just like, oh my God, well, is something wrong? It's like, no, nothing's wrong with Patrick. Did you see the throws he was making? Like the ones that the guys dropped? I mean, come on. There's nothing wrong with Patrick Mahomes. Like, they'll be fine. They'll put it back together. I'm sure they'll win the next game. And they'll be mowing through everybody.
Yeah, I think what I will say is, though, the guys that Detroit drafted and the guys that they picked up, it looks like it works. Like the defense, looks like it should be better. Aiden Hutchinson was rushing the quarterback like crazy. The middle linebacker that they drafted made some plays. Even the safety had the pick 6. Like they're in a really good, Detroit really helped their team and added to it. I don't think, we'll see how it goes with the defense, if the defense can be good enough with their offense to help them out. I think their division is going to be. I think their division is going to be a little more difficult. I think that I find it interesting that a lot of people liked the Bears this season. I think their over under was 8.5 or something like that. And I which I just find weird. I mean, I think Detroit and Green Bay are clearly better than Chicago. Like,
Yeah.
Green Bay kicked Chicago's ass in that game, and I don't know. Was I supposed to be surprised by that? Like, Green Bay has way more talent. Their defense is actually pretty good. They have a nice team built around Jordan Love. Jordan Love's doesn't have to be awesome. He just got to do what the coaches are coaching him to do.
Matt LaFleur is an offensive coach. Okay. So, and I think he's proven we've got enough evidence. He knows what he's doing. Okay. And then, Jared Goff, we've seen Jared Goff win playoff games. We've seen him make big throws in playoff games. He played pretty well last year. Like, they've got a good team around him. He's good. And they've got that team that team's pretty stacked with talent. So, yeah, and then Minnesota, look, I still think Minnesota's pretty good. Every now and then, maybe they should have beaten Tampa Bay. That's really bad that they didn't. They gave a game. That's another team that just gave a game away this weekend. So, and that'll probably come back to hurt them later on. So we'll see.
Yeah, I don't understand this idea that, and like early in the season, like looking at the over-unders, people had Atlanta at 9.5. Like, I don't understand that. Green Bay is going to be better than Chicago or Atlanta. Like,
yeah.
I don't understand. And then that game, like I watched the game this week. Yeah, Atlanta beat Carolina. They threw the ball for 112 yards.
Yeah, Desmond Ridder can't throw.
Right. I don't understand. How is Atlanta going to win all these games? I don't get, like, and this goes with, I just wrote down a bunch of narratives that people came into before the season that don't make any sense to me. I don't understand why Atlanta's supposed to be so good. Yeah, their schedule is not very difficult, but it really doesn't matter in the NFL if you can't score. Like, if you can't throw the ball in the NFL, guess what? You're not going to succeed. Just like the Bears. If you can't complete more than 15 passes a game, I like Justin Fields, but if you can't do that, you're not going to win. It really doesn't matter what else you have around you. So that was another one that just made absolutely no sense to me. The Atlanta thing, I just think the Saints are clearly going to win that division. And, I get that the rest of the division isn't very good, but there's no way I think Atlanta's winning 8 or 9 games. The other one, the Rams, like this idea that the Rams are just going to be awful this year and they have no shot and whatever. And they went in there and just kicked the shit out of Seattle. So, this just in, Sean McVay, he can coach. Matthew Stafford, pretty good quarterback. So this idea that the Rams are just going to suck and they might be in position to get a top 5 pick is just nonsense. I think the Rams may not make the playoffs, but they are not a slouch. They are going to win games, and they are not going to be a pushover this year.
If Stafford is playing and he's healthy, they should be able to move the ball. They'll get Cooper Kupp back in a few weeks. So yeah, they should be pretty good. What do you so the rookie quarterbacks. So I guess we can do that really quick. So what do we got? Anthony Richardson, C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young. Anybody else?
Not that played the other day. I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
Everybody else is established.
I texted you this, like, okay, I was watching some of the Carolina game, and okay, I wouldn't have drafted Bryce Young, but okay, I can see it. Like, you watch him play, he looks comfortable in the pocket. He's pretty accurate with the ball. Granted, he didn't really play that well, but I mean, Carolina is a bad team, So I can kind of get it. But I was listening to Ryan Russillo, and he's like, when you watch him in a game, you're like, oh my God, is he small? I mean, like, wow. I mean, it's not like Tua looks small, but Bryce Young's smaller than him. It's like, is that a middle schooler? Like, what is he doing out there? Like, I just, not to make fun of the guy, but, so yeah, I guess we'll see how that goes. If I was a gentleman, I couldn't have done it because he's so friggin' small.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, like, yeah, Tua's pretty small and Kyler Murray's pretty small, but those guys are thick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Russell Wilson is thick. You know what I mean? They have much more girth to them, so they don't look like they shouldn't be out there. Bryce Young looks really small. Like, it's disturbingly small. Now, yes, he delivers on and it's like, and it almost kind of, I feel like being fearless almost works to a disadvantage. Like, I don't want Bryce Young to be fearless and just be delivering the ball no matter what. That's not what you should be doing. So it kind of worries me a little bit. The 2 interceptions he throws through were, rookie dumb mistakes, whatever. I didn't think much of it. C.J. Stroud, I mean, he's got Houston is terrible.
He's
CJ Stroud
he's going
is
to be running for his life the whole year. And like I was saying to
yeah.
you, maybe he's good, but I don't know if we're going to have any idea because of where he's playing. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I think that's a really difficult situation for him. They really had no chance. I mean, they have no in that game against Baltimore. They had no chance of moving the ball. There was nothing he could do. So I don't know what that's going to look like. Anthony Richardson looked okay, like for a rookie, like to go out there in your first game. He made some plays. He'd like to have some back, but he made some plays that the offense is clearly, Shane Steichen. He's got him moving around, doing stuff. And I think, supremely talented. Now he trying to run the ball into the end zone. He took a huge hit from somebody, and I think he's going to have to be a little more careful, but he's 240 pounds. So it's a little different. It's different if he so they had to put Gardner Minshew in, but I feel like, if they can devise game plans, and I think they're playing Houston this week, so they'll have a chance. I think he's, there's something there, but all these guys are a long way away from being anything.
Well, I like what Colin Cowherd was saying, that, I think he'll maybe the Colts surprise some people early in the season because we haven't seen this yet, so we don't really know what to expect. So I think he can make plays. Beyond that, I mean, that's, we really don't know because he didn't play a lot in college, and so we just don't know, can he, develop the way like Jalen Hurts developed? I don't know. That's anybody's guess, but he's probably, if you look at it, he's probably, I mean, I guess, is he in the best situation? For
Anthony
him?
Richardson?
Yeah.
I think listen, I don't think it's as bad as the other two are. I think his situation's decent. He's got the right coach for him. They don't have, their offensive line is not great, but it's not terrible either. Like it's decent. And if they ever get Jonathan Taylor back, then, then they might have like the makings of a decent offense. And he was getting the ball to Michael Pittman. Like, I don't think it's terrible. I don't think it's as bad as Carolina and Houston are, but it's obviously not great. But he made it through the game, and he looked like he was serviceable. So that's really all you can ask from a guy who's hardly really played. So we'll see how this goes. We'll see if he gets better. And it's one of those things you really want to check him out in November, December, and see is it getting better? Like, does it look different? Because if he's got that much talent, it should improve over 2 or 3 months. It should really improve a lot. And so that'll be interesting to see, but you can only tell so much from the first game. Let's see what else. Okay, so the 49ers, beat the shit out of the Steelers, and all right, so we got to ask the question. Like it just a lot of these shows talking about the games on Monday just kind of tick me off. Because it's like we're gonna spend a whole bunch of time talking about the Cowboys, who blew out the Giants in a completely meaningless game that has no bearing on anything. Yeah, the Cowboys are really good. Okay, they beat the Giants. What else do we want me to say? Well, Dak Prescott kind of didn't play great. Well, he didn't even have to do anything. Like you could have had the high school quarterback in there. It would have been the same thing. So what are we talking about? And then the other topic that pissed me off was, all right, well, Brock Purdy. Like, do we think Brock Purdy's actually a good quarterback? And it's just like, I can't believe we're wasting time on this. He's fine. Like, Brock Purdy's fine. Do I think Brock Purdy's going to be a superstar Pro Bowler, like, franchise quarterback? No. But can he do what the 49ers need him to do? Yeah. So we need to stop assessing Brock Purdy compared to other quarterbacks. He doesn't need to be great. All he has to do is just exactly what Shanahan tells him to do.
Yeah.
So we don't need to keep going over Brock Purdy.
Yeah. So that whole thing gets ridiculous because, there's a lot of teams around the league that they're only asking their quarterback to do certain things, and it's like with, people are like, oh, well, Tua's amazing. It's like, well, look, what they need from Tua is we just need you to distribute the ball. Okay. Like, just, make the plays that are there. Don't try to do too much. With the 49ers, it's maybe even easier because your defense is so freaking good, and then you've got, as opposed to having Mike McDaniel, who is the offshoot. You've got the source right there. You have Kyle Shanahan calling the plays. So yeah, I mean, and look, I was impressed with a couple of the throws that Brock Purdy made. That's pretty good. I mean, if he can just be solid for most of the game and then give you a couple plays here and there, like yeah, that's all you really need. Given what the NFC is and how talented their defense is, like that's all you really need them to do.
Yeah, I think both narratives are false, right? The narrative that Brock Purdy's awesome and he's going to take over the league is nonsense, and the narrative that Brock Purdy's, really below average and, any other quarterback could do this, that's not really accurate either. No, he's fine. Like he's good enough to do what they need him to do.
Yeah.
He's not some kind of fraud out there, but I don't understand why we're basing all this. It's like people just want to. It's like they want to go. Well, you can't win this way. You can't do this with this quarterback. It's like San Francisco actually can because they're so freaking good. Okay, They have so much talent. It's beyond it's just beyond everyone else. So yeah, when they play you and everybody's healthy and it's all everything's green light, go. They're scary. You don't want to play the 49ers if they're healthy off a bye with time up. You don't want it. You don't want any part of them because they're just a monster. Now, is that going to work when you get to the playoffs? We'll see. When you play against other good teams, like you saw Brock Purdy against the Cowboys in the playoffs. Didn't do very much. So, so we'll see how that goes. But I think it's the topic is just ridiculous. I don't understand why we're spending any time, I know we just spent 5 minutes on it, but why is everyone else spending this much time on Brock Purdy? There are way more interesting things to talk about in the NFL than that. You need a break?
No. Let's let's kind of you want to do college real quick and
real quick. So I'm glad the Broncos are not going to the Super Bowl. They look terrible. Or they don't look any better than they did last year. So that's a pretty big concern for me. But yeah, that was all I had as far as NFL goes. All right, so let's talk college. Huge win by Texas going to Alabama and kind of stepping on them. And you know what, Clark? Looking back at that game, I kind of realized when Sark kept going for fourth downs, when they went for that fourth down in the middle of the field and didn't get it. I think I was watching the game with Dad, and I said, you know what? Texas, he has no fear of Alabama's offense. He's not worried about what Alabama's going to do. He's like, we got this. We're going to kick their ass.
Right.
So that's after the third, fourth down, I was like, oh, Texas he's not even sweating this. He knows they're going to win. So I was like, that was the first sign to me. And then I said, you know what, when it was Texas got up by, 27-16, I said, Alabama's not going to score 11 points the rest of the game. They got the touchdown and 2-point conversion, so they scored 8, and that was it. So I was like, yeah, once I saw this Alabama offense into the second half, I was like, this isn't happening. I think, Nick, this Alabama team is built like the Alabama teams of 10 years ago. And they think they can just play defense, run the ball. The quarterback will make a few plays, and we'll beat you because we have better players. That's not the case in college football anymore. Because, and you know what, Clark? I think this is a good point. I think what the transfer portal has done, it's taken the depth away from the good teams. The good teams are still good. They just don't have the 2 deep, 3 deep. They don't have all of the guys that they used to have because those guys are going to realize I can go start somewhere, so I'm going to transfer. Right? You don't have to wait a year to transfer. So there's no reason to stay. So they just all leave. So I think that's what happened because you watch this game. Texas was not intimidated talent-wise. This was not a talent mismatch. Texas was doing everything Alabama did and better because they had a quarterback who could throw the ball down the field and was accurate with it.
Yeah, that was a fun game to watch. Texas, it was funny. We kind of, they should have been up more in the first half.
Right.
And they weren't, and then Alabama took the lead, and it's kind of like, well, I guess this is just what Texas is. Maybe they should be better than this, but they're really not. But then they made a bunch of plays, so credit to them. So we'll see, what happens moving forward if they can kind of keep this going against the rest of the Big 12. But yeah, Alabama, like, their quarterback, clearly, he can run, which is great.
Yeah.
But in terms of, he made some really bad decisions.
Yeah, the
So,
two interceptions were really bad,
yeah,
especially the second one, like staring down the receiver, waiting way too long to throw it, and so yeah, that's going to be an issue. I think. Listen, I'm not one of these people. Well, Alabama's done. It's over. Well, no, it's not over, but they're not going to win 3 out of the next 5 national championships. That's over. Like they're not going to win, multiple titles in short spans of time like they had been. That part's done. Can they still compete for the national championship? Sure. And especially when there's a 12-team playoff, they're going to be in it every year. So of course they're always going to have a shot. But they're not dominating everybody. They can't just, we'll just run it and gain 8 yards a clip. Like it's
yeah,
no problem. You can't stop us. That's done. That's over with. And so that makes college football really interesting. I think with Alabama's schedule, they could lose 2 or 3 more games if they're not careful.
right.
So they should have lost 4 games last year. It's just Bryce Young managed to pull them out of the fire a couple of times. So they got to play LSU, they got to play Tennessee, they got to play Ole Miss at Texas A&M. Like these are not going to be easy games. And if Alabama comes into a game where Milroe doesn't throw the ball well, they're going to be in some trouble.
Problems. So I don't know. They've got to. I don't know what they need. Like they had this run of, pretty good quarterbacks. Bryce Young obviously won the Heisman. You had Tua. You had Mac Jones. So yeah, and when you don't have that, you really notice it. And so we'll see if they can. Maybe they have. Maybe there's a transfer thing in the off. The next year or something. I don't know, but they need to kind of work on. They need to fix that because that's really going to hold you back from when you're competing in the biggest games against the best teams. You need somebody who can overcome, well, this defense is really good. Well, our guy can overcome that, and if you don't have that it's kind of difficult to win other ways based on, how the game's played now and the talent that everybody else has.
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing, Alabama's offensive line is not what it was. It's still not that great. It wasn't that great last year. It's not that great this year. They don't have really like a superstar 5-star wide receiver anymore.
Right.
But what really confuses me, Clark, is like the quarterback is the premium position in college football and the NFL, and they're transferring all over the place all the time to get to find a place where they can play. Alabama had a shot at all these transfer quarterbacks. And they didn't get one. The best they got was Tyler Buckner from Notre Dame. Like when Cade McNamara went to transfer from Michigan, Alabama was on the list of teams. They couldn't get him. Sam Hartman, when he left Wake Forest, Alabama was on his list. They didn't get him. Like I'm confused. They couldn't get Arch Manning when they tried to recruit him. Like what's going on at Alabama that they can't get one of these quarterbacks? All of these schools have good quarterbacks.
Yeah.
What is so that part that concerns me a lot. That they've had opportunities to get quarterback. Is Saban turning them down? What's happening? How do you not have a guy? I just feel like Texas can get that guy no problem. They got Quinn Ewers this year. They're gonna have Arch Manning next year. Like it's not an issue for them. It's not an issue for all these Pac-12 teams that have quarterbacks. So I'm just floored that Alabama can't do better than that at quarterback. That just shocks me.
Yeah.
But that leads into my thing. Like, if you've been watching college football this year, oh my God, the quarterbacks, Clark. It is insane. We're going to have 4 or 5 guys in the first round this year. And that's not a joke. That's not hyperbole. That's legit. We know Caleb Williams and Drake May. We've got Bo Nix at Oregon. We've got Michael Penix at Washington. The kid at Duke, Riley Leonard, he's really good. Like the kid at the Florida State, Jordan Travis is really good. All the guys in the, Shador Sanders, he's fantastic. Like the quarterbacks, it's blowing me away every week in college football. I've never seen it like this before.
Yeah. Yeah, just there's quarterbacks that are really, that are just really dynamic. They can run, they can throw. They can make all kinds of plays, and yeah, I mean, if you don't have that and you're playing one of these other teams, you're at a significant disadvantage. So, especially with the transfer portal making it easier to get guys, like you can say, well, it's like in college basketball. It's like you can be against the one and done thing all you want, but other people are doing it. So if you don't, you're going to get left behind. So,
Yeah, I mean,
you can
look
be
at
like, oh, we don't
Clemson.
want to do it through the transfer portal. Okay, fine, but other schools are doing that, and they're going to be better than you. So,
Yeah, I mean, look at Clemson. This looks like 2 straight quarterbacks they've missed on. And it's not like these guys weren't highly rated. They were like the number, top 5 in their class. So
yeah,
it's crazy. If you don't, you got to move quick on this stuff. The other thing is, listen, I'm gonna have to, Colorado. Listen, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to apologize. I didn't see this coming. I know they beat Nebraska and TCU. Those aren't good teams. I get it, but I'm just watching this going. I mean, they're favored to beat Colorado State by 22, and then they play Oregon on the road. So we'll find out if they're legit or not. But all I can say is, like I've been saying, I don't know how they're going to win 6 games and go to a bowl.
I think they're going
I
to win
think
6 games and go to a bowl now.
Yeah, I think it's kind of done. I don't know. They got to play the Pac-12, and they're gonna but they're gonna get games against the worst teams in the Pac-12: Stanford, Washington State. So they're probably going to get some more wins, but we'll find out in 2 weeks against Colorado or against Oregon. They play at Oregon, and then they play USC. And so I'm really looking forward to that. Thank you, Colorado, for giving us something to really watch during these weeks where there's no good games on.
Yeah.
Thank you for being interesting. I really appreciate it. But the quarterback, Shedeur Sanders, is awesome, and Travis Hunter is incredible. I mean, this guy's playing both ways. He's playing corner and wide receiver, and he's tearing it up every week. Like, this is amazing. Like, and watching Travis Hunter, I'm like, you know what the Jets should do? The Jets should have Sauce Gardner play some receiver. Like, for God's sakes, the guy's, he's like 6'1", 6'2", and he's got really long arms. I think the Jets, I think the NFL coaches need to be more creative. Like, let's go, man. You want to win games, right? So you're lacking in receivers. Put Sauce Gardner out there. If there's anybody that knows how to run a route, he does. I'm not saying he should play, and I'm not saying he should play 60 offensive plays. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying he should play 120 plays in a game. I'm just saying they should have a package of 12 to 15 plays that he's involved in where he can just go do his thing, because they're going to have to pay attention to him. Anyway, that's me just shooting off the cuff. The only other thing is I put my top 12. I got my top 12.
Oh, okay.
So if you want to go through that. All right. So first of all, I kind of think I think Michigan and Georgia should almost get it incomplete. Like, we should almost just take them off the list, because we're not going to know how good they are until November, because they literally play nobody.
Yeah.
So, but I had to put them on the list, because otherwise, I just feel like stupid if I didn't. The best 2 teams I've seen are Texas and Florida State, so I put them 1-2. I'm just going based on what I've seen this year, not what I think everybody is, because in college football now, I don't really know exactly how good everybody is with how many teams have changed quarterbacks. Right. So then I put Georgia, Michigan 3 and 4, because I thought, all right, let's be reasonable here. And then I tried to just put teams in the order I thought who would win. I put Penn State 5th. I put USC 6th, LSU 7th. Then I got Notre Dame, then Washington, Oregon, Tennessee at 11. And then I put Miami 12, because I looked at the rest of the teams. I thought about putting Colorado on the list, but I don't know. I feel like what I'm seeing for Miami is pretty good.
Well, yeah,
so
they beat Texas A&M.
Yeah, they beat Texas A&M and kick their butts pretty much. So I think this the conferences that are going to be really fascinating. Like, Clark, I was not expecting this from the ACC this year. We got Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, and now Miami. Like, that's going to be a fascinating race. The Pac-12 is Washington, USC, Oregon, and Colorado. Don't forget about Colorado. This is going to be, and Utah. Like, it's going to be, these conference races are going to be fascinating. So, yeah, really looking forward to it. This week, Clark, College Game Day and Big Noon Kickoff are going to Colorado.
Yeah.
To see, for Colorado State. Like, it's not even a good game, and they're going. I know there's not really any good games this weekend. I mean, the best game is probably Tennessee and Florida, but the way Florida's been playing, Tennessee probably just destroys them. But yeah, it'll be really interesting. I mean, it sucks that, Michigan and Georgia, we're just going to have to wait and see. But we'll see about the rest of these teams. And, we're getting into conference play in a couple weeks. And, yeah, in 2 weeks we get Clemson, Florida State, Notre Dame, Ohio State, and Colorado, Oregon on the same day. So
All right,
that's going to
nice.
be that's going to be the first legit weekend where we're really getting some really big matchups back to back to back. So
Cool.
all right, folks, thank you for tuning in. Hopefully root for the Dolphins for us, and we'll see you next week. Enjoy the games.